Hi everyone, LJ Ginega here with LJ Realties, and today I'm accompanied by
David Leblanc.
Today we're going to talk about new construction, and really I figured who's better to speak about new construction than somebody who made his first two purchases in that domain. So David, take it away.
Yeah, new construction is honestly a fantastic way to get started investing and owning property in real estate, I think, especially for younger people who may have the option of still staying at home with their parents while the project is coming to completion, or people who are currently renting who are able to line up a delivery date with when their lease would be finishing. I think the thing that would be interesting to discuss in this video especially would be kind of the pros and cons of going with new construction. New construction seems like a fantastic idea initially when we say it's going to be brand new. The electrical is going to be 2021 electrical versus buying something that was built in the 70s. The finishings, I can usually have some say on what the finishings I would like to have. All of those things seem amazing. But at the end of the day, there are some downsides to going with new construction. The most important downside going with new construction would be the delays. So the delays can be quite substantial, especially if you're like someone like me who purchased in the middle of the pandemic in April 2020. The delays can be quite substantial and a little bit less predictable. So in that sense, like I said, it's a strategy that I would suggest more so to people who already have a place to live. They can kind of wait it out a little bit and then move in when the property is ready. I don't know how you feel about that as well.
I completely agree. I think that obviously you need to be flexible if you're looking to go into new construction as an owner-occupant. If it's obviously an investment, you're a lot more flexible because you're not planning on moving into it. But if you do intend on this being your principal residence, you need to understand that delays are normal. They were normal pre-pandemic, and now they've just gotten a little bit more out of control. So you need to know that that's going to happen, and that's something that you're going to have to consider. Now, one of the other advantages of it is obviously, like you said, that you have more time on your hands, right? A lot of these properties have kind of deposit schedules that you're going to have to respect, whether that's a 5-5-5-5 or they have different structures. And that means that you get to actually have some time to keep the cash on you before you park it into this investment. And then obviously only have to get that mortgage really finally certified at the time of delivery. So you do have more time to kind of build that cash reserve. You have more time to get that mortgage approval, if you will. What we see very often with some of the younger investors, it's okay, you know what? I'll get the approval at the time of signing with my parents co-signing, but I know that in 2 years' time, when I'm actually taking delivery of the property, my salary is going to have increased enough for me to purchase that on my own. So that also opens up a few more avenues of flexibility and into actual ownership on your own, which is very difficult when you kind of first year out of university, if you will, or just getting started in a new career.
Mm-hmm. And touching on the kind of the delays could be a con, but it can also be an advantage in the sense that the play with new construction really is on massive amounts of appreciation. So you're buying, depending on how early you're buying, you could be buying based on plans. You could be buying in phase 3 of a 5-phase project. So the actual community has not necessarily been established yet, and the construction is not done. So people are still able to buy new properties when you are purchasing yours. But then a year from now, there are no new properties to buy, and people are already starting to buy the resales of the previous phases. In those kind of markups, you're building your appreciation, and you haven't even started paying your mortgage yet. So it's really an interesting play in terms of appreciation, that's for sure. One thing that I would mention that's been super important as far as myself and my family evaluating new construction is definitely to evaluate the developer. You want to know who you're getting into bed with, in the sense that if I'm going to wait 2 years for this project to be delivered, I'm expecting that things are going to be done on time, things are going to be done properly and to code. Not every developer, and we saw a lot of developers kind of go belly up during the pandemic, and people were kind of lost with, well, I had invested in this project and I had planned on moving into this place, and now it's not going to be seen to fruition. I now no longer have a place to live. So it is really important to evaluate the developers when it comes to that as well.
The next thing I want to talk about is understanding what the actual co-ownership fees are going to be like. Developers are kind of experts in making sure they use the minimum baseline acceptable for all co-ownership fees. So that's the condo fees, that's the contingency fund, that's the evaluation, that's everything. So you really want to make sure that you're objective when you run your numbers and you build your pro forma as to what my monthly costs are actually going to be. Make sure that you kind of ask the right questions and compare it to other buildings of a similar age so that you make sure that you're actually prepared for the appropriate payments and you don't get surprised. it's not uncommon for condo fees to kind of double almost in the first 2-3 years after it gets put on a more regular schedule. Now, we are taking steps to kind of eliminate that and be a little bit more intelligent and honest about it with some of the changes from the government, but it's still something that developers are kind of using to their advantage, and they're going to pitch you really, really low condo fees, which sound exciting at the beginning, but at the end of the day, the building isn't going to function at those fees. So you really have to keep that in mind.
It's also, it touches on a point when we're talking about condo fees. It's things that people don't necessarily think about when they show up to a sales office. They speak to a salesman, because when we get into buying new property, you're essentially dealing with a salesman. They're a real estate broker, but they are only selling properties in that project. So it's really important that if you are interested in a new development project, not to think that you can just walk in there and they'll work with you and you don't need any kind of representation. There is a lot of documents to read when we're working with new development. And one of the things that's the most important is to understand, what are my co-ownership fees covering? What is going to be included in this? Is there going to be snow removal for the entire development, or is it going to be snow removal just for my unit that I'm paying for? Because the way that that's going to be broken up in terms of monthly expenses and how that's going to be increased over time is going to be differently. So even myself personally, I've done 2 new construction purchases. I always had LJ there with me, guiding me through that process as well.
So those are some of our kind of pros and cons analysis of a new development. What are your favorite questions, or what's kind of the best thing that you had out of your first new development experience? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.